a long face, Horace.
I'm just having a little girl trouble.
Big pressing charges. I get that a lot.
Holden McNeil was set in his ways. The way he worked. The way he lived. And the way he thought love should be. But then, she showed up.
Let me guess. You like her. This girl loves me.
There's something you should know.
She got a boyfriend.
Well, no.
Then what's to know, my friend?
And this girl's got a secret that's going to drive him crazy.
I like you, Holden. I'd really like us to be friends.
What'd I tell you? She just needs the right guy.
What's up?
And if you come pick me up, I'll be your best friend.
Now, the only thing standing in Holden's way is the truth.
I can't take this.
Can't take what?
I love you. Not in a friendly way.
How was your pseudo date?
Okay, I'm telling you, she's never even been with a guy.
You're dating a guy?
So what if it is true?
You know you have no shot at getting her into bed.
I take it that's not good.
Miramax Films presents a comedy that tells it like it feels.
She's been around and seen things we've only read about in books.
So what'd you do last night?
Got lucky.
Chasing Amy.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Woo! Hi, listeners.
Hello.
We're back for another week.
We're back.
We're back. We've got a great show for you, everybody. My name is Pete.
And I'm Scott.
And these are the movies that made us gay.
Yay! Welcome back to the show.
Well, we've got a good episode today.
Yeah.
We've got a fun guest. We've got a good episode. A movie we haven't seen in a while.
A very long time.
But it was refreshing to revisit it.
It was an interesting rewatch. We'll get into it.
Yeah,
But
I
let me
agree.
first introduce our guest.
Yes.
Our
please
very
do.
good friend of the pod, Amber Shaw. Welcome to the show, Amber.
Thank you, guys. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, you're very welcome to be here.
We have a reception for you.
I love it.
Oh, there they are. There they are.
So, yeah, we watched Chasing Amy from 1997, directed by Kevin Smith.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah. So
That happened.
I have not seen this movie in probably maybe 20 years.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
I've watched it more recently. It was kind of one of those pivotal movies for me when I saw it in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's probably been about 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
And it was an important 6 or 7 years, I realized, as I was watching it. I was
sure.
like,
Sure.
oh, some things have changed.
Do you
Yeah.
remember first watching this movie? Do you remember where you were or any details of the first viewing of it?
I was on the 4th floor of the Bobst Library at New York University because they had a big film library where you could go and sit in a little, like, cubby, and they would show you a movie.
Oh, cool. Our
yeah.
library in college had that.
Yeah, it was great.
Yep.
So that's what I would do in long gaps between classes is I would just go and catch up on movies I hadn't seen because I wasn't allowed to or they didn't make it to my town.
Sure, right. What were your first impressions of it at the time?
It blew my tiny little mind.
Sure.
I had only been living in New York for like 6 months at that point.
And you went straight from like high school, you're 18 years old, to moving to New York City, which is fucking insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went to like a tiny Catholic high school in Texas and then just was moved to New York to study theater.
Wow.
How did your parents let you do that one?
They're real nice people. Real generous, real understanding, supportive.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it just, like, for me, it was definitely a movie, not that you would know it from the trailer, that was unlike anything I'd seen.
Right.
Because it, definitely discussed things in a different way and moved in a different way.
When you listen to that trailer that we played, like it's a generic romantic comedy.
Right.
And it is everything but a
Definitely.
generic romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Pete, do you remember first watching this movie?
I do. I saw it in the theater because I'm old. And I saw it in the theater. I saw it at the Sunset 5.
I love the Sunset 5
in Hollywood.
Ever been to the Sunset 5?
I have.
It was a fun little indie theater at the time. We thought we were very cool and sophisticated going to Hollywood for this movie. We were young when this came out. What year did this come out?
97.
Yeah.
Released April 18th of 1997.
So I was 19 when this movie came out. And I saw it in the theater, and it was so funny. You know, like the humor in this movie was so fresh for the time.
Mm-hmm.
There were jokes in there that were just like, you didn't see this kind of humor in movies. You know, it referenced pop culture, it referenced, you know, comic book culture, all that stuff. And it had this like gay storyline in it. So to me, it was just like, oh, wow, this is big and this is like important. We'll talk about some of the
there's a lot to break down in this movie.
Oh, so much.
Some of the
there's
attitudes, a lot. And it's aged. You know, it's been a long 20 years.
You know what I was just thinking? And the episode that is going to have come out before this is Object of My Affection.
Right.
Ooh.
2 big studio movies that revolve around gay characters.
Yeah.
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 And the straight people that love them.
And the straight people that love them. Yep. But yeah, so it was a brief trend in the 90s.
Oh, and by the way, I also have not seen this movie, and I want to say maybe about 10 years. I may have seen it revisited about 10 years ago. I did have a love affair with Kevin Smith and the View Askew universe.
Oh, totally. Like, I was pretty obsessed with the movies, and all the Evening with Kevin Smiths are on my iPod to this day. Like, I listen to them. I listen to his podcasts. Like, I was deep in it.
Sure.
And this was kind of my intro.
Have you gone to a live with him and Ralph?
I have.
Okay.
So if you go back to an old Hollywood Babylon, like, there's a shout out to me because I went on my birthday.
Oh, fun.
Oh, that's nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Was it at the Lovitz Theater? At
It
City
was.
Walk?
That's how
cool.
long ago it was.
Awesome.
So I have always had a very take it or leave it attitude of Kevin Smith. It's
Sure.
not that I don't like Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I must have rented this movie when I worked at the video store.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't seen it since. And that was probably 2003 when I rented it.
Okay.
And yeah, I remember...
What did you think at the time?
I remember thinking it was just bizarre. Because I think it was one of those things that I had seen the trailer.
Yeah.
And it's one of those instances that the movie is nothing like how the trailer is cut.
Right.
Too.
Right.
So, yeah. I don't know what I thought of it then, and I really don't know what I think of it now. And I feel like this is a good movie to choose for the podcast. Like we just did Object of My Affection. In this movie, there are 2 very specific moments of the later half of the 90s that examined gay characters.
Yeah.
And problematic? Possibly.
Maybe a little.
We'll get into it more. But kind of my relationship with Kevin Smith, it's always been a very take it or leave it.
Right.
I always enjoy listening to his interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
Whenever he's guested on podcasts that I listen to, or just kind of his interviews in that Superman documentary were really good. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
The Death of Superman.
The Death of Superman? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my relationship with Kevin Smith.
I mean, I think no matter what, it's always been a unique voice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like that's admirable. Like, he's not making, a reboot or... I mean, he's rebooting his own stuff, but...
Right.
But in between that, he was also making
kind
some...
of a commentary on Hollywood trying to reboot properties, too, right?
Right.
Isn't it? It's kind of like self-referential.
Yeah.
I had completely forgotten that there's a Kevin Smith cinematic universe, too.
Yeah.
That all of these movies, at least from this period, are all connected, too.
Yeah, and all starting with Clerks and Mallrats and these characters kind of living in this version of New Jersey.
I've never seen Clerks.
What?
I know.
You work in
It's
retail
weird.
and you've never
I know
seen
it's
Clerks?
weird.
Yeah.
And now I just feel like I just missed it, so it's just like, why do I even bother?
No, I think that one holds up. Like, I think...
Okay.
Yeah, the script holds up.
Yeah. And I feel like if nothing else, it's an impressive feat that they got it done for $38,000.
Yeah, it is.
And it'll speak to your retail soul.
I mean, it definitely put independent cinema on the map in the 90s, too.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, I feel like a big elephant in the room with all of these movies from this period is Miramax.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they were on top of the world in the mid-90s. When you saw that, like, Miramax logo, you knew that you were in for, like, something special.
Yeah.
And then all that came crashing down in 2017.
I will say the kind of balm to this is Kevin Smith, when all the Weinstein stuff was coming out, has donated any residuals he gets off of his Miramax movies to like Rain
good.
And
okay.
You know,
that
pro women charities.
Sure, that's good to hear. So, what are our thoughts on Kevin Smith? So it's 2019. We're watching this movie filtered through our like woke lenses, and I mean, even at the time, he is a straight white male filmmaker writing a gay woman, a gay black man, just female characters in general. I mean, how does it come across? How did it come across then? How is it reading now? I mean, it's interesting, this voice, because at least his voice for characters, to an extent, he's got that Kevin Williamson thing where the language is like, all right, nobody talks like that.
Yeah.
I have in my notes that he's doing a very Richard Linklater Before Sunrise sort of thing with how
like the back and forth.
The back and forth and how they talk to each other.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what he was going for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also, like, I was looking at it through the lens of, like, the Woody Allen thing of there's always an avatar for Kevin Smith.
Yes.
There's always the Kevin Smith character, not played by Kevin Smith, but talking in his voice.
Right.
So, it's usually the Jason Lee character.
Even at the time, I remember just the movie opening, and I'm just like, your two leads are Holden and Banky.
Yeah.
I'm like, really, dude? Come on.
And if there are any women out there or gay men, please, any man who is obsessed with Holden Caulfield, just run away.
Yeah.
Right?
It's never worth it.
It's not a
Don't
good,
sleep with that guy. It's never going to end well. That's general life rule.
Sage words. Yeah, so that's one thing. The two names right off the bat at the very beginning of this movie, it starts off at a comic book convention, a quaint.
Yeah, I mean this is
small,
how comic book. I mean, also this is how comic book conventions used to be.
Yeah,
before
a late '90s comic book
studios
convention.
like got on that money train.
Well, I have to say this actually would have been a graphic novel convention. This is not a comic book convention because I feel like we're what are the Blank Man and Chronic?
Blunt
Those
Man
are characters.
and
Blunt Man. I'm sorry, Blank Man. Blank Man is Damon Wayans. Blunt Man and Chronic would have been, and also Idiosyncratic Method. I feel like would have been like with Oni Press. They would have been at like at the graphic novel.
Yeah,
thing,
I feel like it's a
and it would have been
Strangers in
separate.
Paradise
Yes.
kind of like that's what Alyssa's writing.
Right.
And
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. And so we get this like quaint, convention, and right off the bat, it's like this character that's like rambling on, just like too deep, comic book knowledge, and he equates Blunt Man and Chronic
with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and the two leads from Waiting for Godot. So he's referencing Hamlet and Godot in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We took liberal arts.
God.
We took liberal arts classes too.
Yeah.
I get that reference.
That was a little heavy-handed right off the bat. It is the opening scene of the movie. It is Holden McNeil's like intro line. Woo.
We have to know he's the smart one.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He's so smart.
Yeah.
He's so much
Which is
smarter
funny
than
because
you.
I feel like the rest of the movie, Ben Affleck just comes across as a dummy.
Oh boy, this
Oh, yeah.
character.
Ooh.
Oh my God, what a dipshit.
Yeah, that goatee.
The whole hair situation was
Oh, my
unfortunate
God,
beginning
yeah.
to end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was trying to unpack Ben Affleck's hair journey throughout his career.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
because
I don't
when
know
you
what's going on
see
there.
this, it's very Jersey bro.
I mean,
like-
it was 90s. It was big hair.
Yes.
You know, it's like it was just big, fluffy.
And then this is also
straight
like
guy hair.
This is also like the Cinderella story of Ben Affleck. That
he didn't
got
have
money.
He didn't have his teeth capped
He
yet.
got money.
He had those little
Yeah.
baby corn teeth. This whole movie, I was like, oh man. Thank God he got those capped.
He got those teeth capped for Armageddon, and he was like, it was like a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
no, I
turned
definitely
into
clocked that, too.
Schlub
Woo.
to leading man.
I'm sorry though. This wardrobe on him, he was just swimming in these
Oh,
clothes.
from scene one, like
From
that T-shirt
scene
was
one.
a 4XL if it was anything.
I mean, I wore my share of cardigans in the 90s, but this sweater that he was wearing, it was not cute. Baggy khakis.
Three layers sometimes.
Yeah, multiple layers. Thankfully they were not pleated khakis.
Oh.
I mean, thank God there was someone on wardrobe that was like, nope, flat fronts all the way. He had his 3-hole brown Doc Martens, very pointy. Yeah, he had some wardrobe issues. I do have to say though, at the time, and I don't know, maybe now, but at the time, the Jason Lee character, Banky, also a Catcher in the Rye character name, was a standout. I thought he was funny. He definitely has anger issues.
It's one of those things that, like, at least they call out
Yeah.
that his character has issues in the screenplay.
Yeah.
So I do kind of let that slide. Think that we had, like, a running tally of when they dropped faggot. I got at least 5 times.
There were 6.
There were 6?
According to my count.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at least the movie, like, calls that out, and it's like a character note that he's a little homophobic.
Well, yeah, because Holden, when he does start dating Alyssa, then he becomes like super woke.
Yeah. Super woke, but in that... And the thing I found the most interesting is I feel like you could take Alyssa out of that movie and put her in a movie right now and not have to change too much of her dialogue, and it would still be relevant in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And you could also take some of Holden and be like, oh yeah, it's those quasi-woke,
Yeah.
I want to present myself as the nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so having gone on 100 first dates at this point in the last 4.5 years, it's still an attitude I see a lot.
Sure.
So there are definitely things in his character that are, so aged badly.
Yeah.
But there are still things where I'm like, yeah, I've had that conversation in the last 2 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we should just get... I do want to address Alyssa's intro in this.
Yeah,
in this
I have that
movie.
in my notes that Alyssa has a really awkward introduction.
Well, it's this thing where they kind of like try to like pan up her to like give it like a full body like shot as she's like speaking. But it's, I don't know, it's... I guess we can just give it to Kevin Smith. Was he 28 when he made this?
Well, and he was dating her at the time, too.
Oh, God,
That's
was
such
he?
a weird couple.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
How do you swing that one?
I kind of love that.
You
Yeah.
know, girls love a talented guy. I don't
Right?
know.
Yeah.
This movie also, you can tell... didn't you mention that there was budget issues with this movie?
Yeah, so if
Because you can tell when you watch the movie.
Oh, yeah. In Evening with Kevin Smith, he talks about how this movie almost killed his producer, Scott Mosier.
Oh.
Because they had no money.
Sure.
And we're trying to... Like, there's a lot of locations in this. Like,
Yeah.
they bounce around.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bodies and moving parts.
Yeah.
And just... Scott apparently was sleeping in his office and trying to find money, and there just wasn't any because they didn't want to go with the Miramax cast. And they lost, like, $14 million by going with their own cast.
Oh, wow.
I mean, how they lit those bars. They just had, like, one giant floodlight illuminating the 3 principal actors.
Yeah.
I mean, part of that could be seen as a choice. Maybe he didn't want to make it seem like those movie clubs that are just way too well lit. And he was like, I want it dark.
No, I mean...
But it just came off really...
When you have, like, a spotlight.
It came off poorly
Yeah.
lit. Yeah. Okay, so he's dating her. Wow, I totally forgot about that. Jeez Louise. Can we talk a little bit about the cast that Miramax wanted?
Yeah, so if I'm remembering correctly, it is David Schwimmer, Jon Stewart, and Drew Barrymore in the 3 leads.
That's a very 90s cast, too.
Right?
Schwimmer for Holden?
Yeah, Schwimmer for Holden, and then Jon Stewart would have been Banky, and then...
my God.
Yeah. It just...
I don't like it.
It would have had a laugh track.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I could see her doing it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
But I feel like Joey is the better choice for this role, though.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know.
I had some problems with Joey Lauren Adams. The baby voice being like at the top of the list. But
I mean, that's her signature bit.
But if that's your signature bit, get a new bit, girl. I don't know. The baby voice is killing me.
And it kind of just takes away some of the power of what you're trying to say, especially in the moments where you're having like a screaming argument in the rain, and it's like, okay, but you sound like you're 5.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of, like you were saying, Scott, the back and forth conversations, the like before, sunrise moments where they're just kind of having banter and they're like back and forth. And she even says to him at one point, like she comments on his wit, because they're being like cute with each other because they're just kind of getting to know each other and all that. Every line she delivers with this like weird fucking grin on her face because she's just like, I'm being clever right now, and when you're clever you have to make this face so everybody knows that you're being hilarious. And I didn't understand the weird facial expressions she was pulling to like deliver these lines. I don't know, she did not work for me.
I thought that in the scene in the car where they're coming back from the diner, and it's angry, but it's one tone of angry.
Oh my God.
Just by the facial expression, and there's not a lot else coming out of that.
Her big fight scenes where she's screaming at him, it's just a din of like this level. Her voice was the screaming that she was doing, and it was like, okay, she's conveying emotion and she's going there, right? Okay, she's going there, all right. But it was rough. It was rough for me because she was not. It was all at one note the entire time.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like build up to. It's just we start at this level and we continue at this level for the entire scene.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. She's not working that much these days.
Jason Lee sort of had a career playing the best friend roles like this. He's either been the best friend in movies or like the father of chipmunks.
I mean, I'm going to just throw this out there. I had a huge crush on him during this era, which I think explains why I'm still single.
Did he come from skateboarding?
Yes.
Yeah, he strikes me as a dirtbag skateboarder.
Yeah, his story is that he's a pro skater and that I don't know how he transitioned to acting. I forget that part of the story.
Kevin Smith just found him somewhere and was like,
skater.
Like
he was friends with someone.
Skater / Scientologist.
Well, that's all in the past now.
I don't think he's a Scientologist anymore.
I don't think so either.
I think he had a big falling out.
Well, thankfully, he's back. We got him back on our team, everybody. All right. Well, there's a big Star Wars rant at the very beginning of this movie.
Because of course there is.
But again, that was kind of new at the time. It was the culture wasn't super saturated with like nerd culture and pop culture references and being cool for that. So it was like this little tiny movie had this crazy Star Wars rant about, Darth Vader being black, and it was funny and it was new.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the "What's a Nubian" line still makes me giggle.
Oh my God, so funny! His
like
delivery's
I was still
great.
in it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what's interesting too is like setting an already independent kind of niche film in an even more niche pop cultural market, because like the graphic novel comic book world was nothing back then. So you're literally setting it in a world that nobody is talking about.
Yeah.
And not quite commercial, and that's probably why the Weinsteins didn't like this movie.
Yeah.
Among other reasons. Probably one being that moviegoers don't want to see movies about lesbians. I'm sure that was a conversation.
Oh, I'm sure.
with Kevin Smith about this movie.
Yeah. I mean, should we talk now about the fact that Joey Lauren Adams, Alyssa Jones, in the movie, ultimately, can it be interpreted as saying that she decided to be a lesbian?
I feel like we just didn't have the vernacular for bisexual at
Right.
that point. Like, it really wasn't...
like gender fluid.
Yeah, I feel like we were stuck in a binary even with like the LGBTQ community. It was just...
The explanations in this are
And that's
very...
LG.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like this movie would probably, like you're mentioning, might work better now.
Yeah.
Because it would have the dialogue to fall back on for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like a lot of the points Alyssa's making are really relevant to the discussion today about like bi visibility and bi erasure.
Yeah.
And also, like, it kind of ties into the whole idea of, you know, the double standard, slut-shamey, Madonna whore complex. Like, I could turn this into a Woman Study 101 rant, but you guys would learn way too much about my life if I did that.
You could do the shortened version of it.
But I still feel like that's the conversation she's having and the way she's having to defend herself happens all the time. And I think it happens with bi men, too.
Oh,
like,
for sure, yeah.
I've definitely gone out with my fair share of bi men who almost treat it like they're telling me they have cancer. And I'm like, no, dude, it's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
But I know it's a hard thing for people to kind of say because everybody does kind of want to put you in a box of one or the other.
Yeah, for sure. The scene where she is telling her like little group of girlfriends that she's seeing a boy. They look at her like she
the look of shock.
Oh yeah, and like
disgust.
the pouring one out for the fallen lesbian.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. You know, it's funny and there's a ring of truth to it. But they look like she just told them like, you guys.
Right.
I just murdered my mother.
Like the next night at the lesbian bar, there's a memorial service for her and her gay days.
There's gonna be a picture framed of her, and there's gonna be like taps,
right?
Playing.
They set one
from,
of
like,
her
the
flannels
DJ.
on fire.
Oh my god! Yeah,
I did like the scene where what's Jason Lee's character's name? Banky and Alyssa are trading sex war stories.
Sure,
because like
the Jaws scene.
Yeah.
Lesbians and straight guys can relate.
Right?
They can conversate. They can bond over sex stories. I kind of thought that seems cute.
Yeah, it is, and I mean it. Again, a conversation that you could absolutely have today, and you know it would totally work in a film.
Yeah.
Except for like the F-bomb that he drops at the beginning.
Yeah, and they're all kind of casual about it, even like the gay characters. But I mean, at the time, it wasn't. It was something that was not as forbidden.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
and like I said earlier, the movie does call it out that it's offensive too. So you do have to give it credit.
And Holden is friends with Hooper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they have scenes together.
Well, and I mean, this all kind of pays off in a really weird way if you then go and watch Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and find out that somehow down the line Hooper and Banky become a couple.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
I was wondering about. I was kind of wondering that in the script, is the character supposed to be gay?
Banky?
Yeah. Because I feel like maybe that was just something that they wanted to explore, but they just couldn't do it.
I feel like it could have been done better because he also had so many of the like quintessential cis white het male lines, and it's like, yeah, I'm still hearing all of that bullshit today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, the whole idea of him being like obsessed with Holden and just being a little bit too far involved in Holden's life and his love life and all that. I don't know that Banky's in love with him. I don't think that Banky wants anything to do with Dick in general.
I feel like it's more like a loss of attention.
Yeah,
It's that hanger-on syndrome where like he's always kind of glommed onto Holden's popularity, and now if that's gone, who is he?
Yeah, right.
But that may be giving it a lot more credit than it earned.
Possibly. But yeah, I do have to say I did appreciate that they kind of went out of their way to show Holden with Hooper and them just kind of having an actual just friendship, that they're just pals, you know. I mean, that was just there set up to illustrate that Holden is a little bit more of the woke one, you know, because he like tolerates like
1997 woke.
Yeah, exactly, 97 woke.
I was also just thinking, had there ever been any type of mainstream movie that discussed lesbian sex before this movie?
I mean, I don't know.
I can't think of one.
I can't either.
So, I mean, you have to give Kevin Smith credit for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's Kevin Smith is writing the script. So did he do research? Did he gather around all his best lesbos and was just like, all right,
this
ladies.
Is why
I mean, I feel like it's more of the porn description of lesbian sex, because I don't.
She straight goes to fisting real quick.
Like, if that's the go-to,
Yeah.
it's like, no, I don't think anybody opens with that.
No.
Do you think that this is a screenplay that he should have handed off to, didn't even necessarily have to be a lesbian, just a female screenwriter, just to do a passover of like, I'm gonna help you punch some of this dialogue up, and I'm kind of.
I mean, I don't know, because I feel like
the
men are more problematic. Like, the men's dialogue is more problematic.
Yeah.
This is true. Yeah.
And, I mean, I do think he should have consulted a non-porn lesbian to be like, so what's lesbian sex actually like?
Yeah.
Because, again, I think the other thing that straight men don't realize when they're having this conversation with lesbian or bi women is the more confused you are about how women can make other women come, the worse off you appear. It's like, so you've never made a woman come. Okay, cool.
Yeah, seriously.
So that's all I could think of during that scene, which is terrible.
Well, yeah, because that's the whole thing. There's like this whole scene where he's talking to her about like, oh, well, if you've never been with a guy, then you're a virgin. And he doesn't get it.
It's such a Catholic school like mind fuck.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I went to Catholic school and it was that whole like oral is the loophole of the no sex, because it does. Jesus only counts it if a penis goes into a vagina.
Yeah, intercourse. Yeah, exactly.
And apparently so does Holden.
Yeah.
Like, he only counts it that way, too.
I feel like, well, Kevin Smith mentioned, Silent Bob mentions growing up Catholic.
Yeah.
So that's Kevin Smith's background, so.
And I mean, if you watch Dogma.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all aware of,
I read something recently that I guess like a couple days before the news broke on Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Smith said that he called him wanting to do another Dogma movie.
Harvey called Kevin?
Yeah.
And said, let's do Dogma 2?
Yes.
Because then we can get everybody mad about something else.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll deflect from my issue.
Yeah, I don't know how they're
if we get the Catholics mad about another Dogma.
I don't know how they're going to get Selma Hayek back.
No,
for Dogma 2, because that's not going to happen.
Oh my god, man, that whole Miramax that starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon were like the darling children of that studio.
Yeah.
They were like back in the day when like Hollywood had its like stable actors.
Yeah.
It was Affleck, Damon, Paltrow.
Yeah.
And Renee Zellweger.
Yeah.
Who I'm sure Renee Zellweger and Joey Harvey would just blur together as one.
The blonde one. Get me the tiny blonde.
With the
tinier
weird
blonde.
voice.
The weird voice. Yes.
You're going to have to be more specific. Oh, man. Did Renee Zellweger take all of Joey Lauren Adams' roles?
I mean, maybe. I could see her, like, probably reading for similar characters. I'm sure that Joey read for...
Cold Mountain.
Cold Mountain, yes.
Nurse Betty.
Nurse Betty.
Sure.
Jerry Maguire.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Empire Records.
Mm-hmm.
The Superior movie.
Yeah. You know that, like...
Empire Records is one of my favorites.
You know that, like,
so good.
little tangent, Pete and I have, like, 20 episodes of an unwritten Empire Records sitcom.
Oh yeah,
in our minds that we've already
got like the entire first season.
We have the whole
like,
first
in the
season
can.
in the
I
can.
will join that writer's room. Whatever needs to be done.
The Empire Records sitcom, it writes itself.
Yeah,
I can still probably recite that movie from memory.
Oh yeah,
it was one of the 5 VHS tapes in my freshman dorm room. Watched it all the time.
I had it. I had the tape. I had the VHS tape. I probably bought it from Tower Records.
We need to pitch this to like HBO.
Yeah,
the new HBO streaming service that has all the Warner properties on it.
Our sitcom for Empire Records was set before the movie, the events of the movie. So it was all the cast was all there. Yeah, it's great. We'll post them
fully on board.
We'll post them on the Instagram. We'll put them in our stories.
Yeah.
I'll type them up.
A little a little preview of one is I feel like Deb and who's the
Liv Tyler?
Deb and who's the Robin Tooney?
She's Deb.
Okay, she's Deb, and then what's Renee's character?
Renee's character is Renee Zellweger's character is Gina.
Deb and Gina are fixing the Empire Records sign on the roof.
Oh,
they
yeah.
get struck by lightning and change
And
personalities.
switch personalities.
Sold. I'm in.
Yeah. We need to make this happen.
Yeah.
I can't believe it didn't happen.
It still can.
It still can.
It still can. We can recast it. You know, we've got it all. We've got plenty of ideas, you guys. We'll sell it to any studio. The bidding war can
If
begin
anybody's
now.
listening.
Yeah. So that was our Empire Records Minute. Okay, so let's get back to this movie, the script.
The big opening reveal. So apparently, Alyssa used to front a band.
Sure.
And she's brought up on stage, which thought it was interesting. She's introduced on stage by Guinevere Turner, who wrote American Psycho.
What?
I just read that. That's interesting.
Oh.
It is.
Yeah. Thought that was kind of bizarre.
And then she comes up for the longest musical
Yeah.
number.
Oh my
We're
God!
seeing
film.
The entire
We're seeing
song.
this entire song.
I'm waiting for the knowledge that there's a secret Joey Lorden Adams album that was
hope
supposed to
not.
be released in conjunction with the film, and that was going to launch her music career.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why did we have to hear that whole song?
That voice. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, it was a lot. They could have cut it.
It's long.
Well, and not only did were we treated to her sultry, sexy singing voice, but we got Ben Affleck just like creeping us out.
Yeah.
Like singing or like dancing like right to her. Oh my God, that was a lot.
Yeah, here's where I lose all of my like 90s girl cred. I have never found Ben Affleck attractive, and watching this movie now, it's like, oh no, I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was good on me.
Yeah,
I was more into Matt Damon.
Same.
There's a brief Matt Damon appearance in
there
this movie.
is. I feel like when I saw this in the theater, I did not know who he was because it was '97. Why would I?
You weren't a big Courage Under Fire
I
fan?
wasn't a big Courage Under Fire. School Ties, was he
You
in
didn't
that?
see Mystic Pizza?
School Ties.
Matt Damon is in Mystic Pizza.
Yes, yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I was not aware that he was in that. But yeah, there's some definite creeper moments with Ben. We're gonna get some images of that and put it on the Instagram. 'Cause
Ben's
he's just
goatee.
like-
That dirtbag goatee. Everyone knows a guy that had a goatee like that.
But you know what? In this movie, the facial hair situation, which is questionable, but I have to say, he was cleanly shaven everywhere else, you know, the rest of his face. But like guys who had that goatee in the 90s, they would shave, have the goatee for like a day, then the rest of their beard would come in and just be gross over it. They would never keep it up properly. I did not appreciate it in this movie, and it only called attention to the baby corn teeth.
That and just like the weak chin. Like that goatee always makes me think like what's the chin situation under here?
Yeah, definitely. That's why so many men are so happy that beards have been in fashion for the past 10 years.
Oh, totally.
They're like, thank God. I also want to mention. Oh, what were we?
Song? when they kiss, there's like a siren that goes off.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yes,
It's like,
and kind of
it's
keeps going.
It's the lesbian siren.
Well, I think it's part of the song.
Yeah.
In the movie, but it's very like Kill Bill siren.
Well, it's interesting because they do the siren effect in that moment when he's getting that revelation that, oh, this chick I am in love with is a lesbian.
Yeah.
And there's also the heartbeat noise later on when he's gearing up to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just some of the sound choices and music choices in this one, like they really stood out to me this time. Where I'm like, why are we listening to calliope music while they're having a fight?
When they were having the argument at the ice rink, and like the hockey players would like punch each other as like one of them would like get in like a verbal jab. It was like, all right, Kevin Smith, I see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
You know, it was a little heavy-handed. I get it was like probably just artistic little turns, but yeah, they stood out so much.
A lot of the cutaways this time really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the Jaws scene where they're discussing their various sex wounds.
Yeah.
And then it cuts away to very brief shots of those moments where it's like, okay, I understood what they were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Did we need that? Yeah, true. What do we think about this woman who identifies as gay, calls herself gay the entire time, identifies as a lesbian, just kind of going like, okay, I'll date you, dude. You know?
Yeah, that's why I kind of think her character is just kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like I really don't know what to make of her, because it seems like she starts very different to where it goes.
I feel like they try to explain it, and it just either needs a defter hand or a little bit more explanation. But when she does decide to kiss him, and she really explains, like, if I make this choice to be with you, I am making a choice about who I am, how I present myself. And again, it is that idea of, like, if the term bisexuality had been around, and if it were also more acceptable, and if she hadn't known that, like, she would be kicked out of the lesbian club for saying it, you know, like, it would have been an easier transition, but it was kind of clunky.
Yeah.
And they're just, like we mentioned before, there really wasn't the dialogue for that in popular culture.
Right.
For stuff like that, so we really can't expect Kevin Smith to sort of pull that out in this movie.
No, and I feel like that's why watching it in 1999 when I saw it was kind of a mind fuck of just like, whoa.
Yeah.
There are so many options.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the part of Alyssa that I feel like still really works too, is just like her wanting to explore the depth and breadth of her sexuality.
Right. But it is kind of inherent to the person though, because like she was telling Holden, which is the big, you know, like, when did you know you were gay moment? And it's like to ask a straight person, like, well, when did you know you were straight? When did you know you weren't gay? You know, when did you start liking women? You know, to ask like a straight man.
I got in so much trouble in religion class in high school for asking somebody
that, you know? And it's kind of like, well, if she's able to just be like, well, okay, I'm open to everybody because I'm not going to close myself off to a gender just because those are societal norms. I mean, that's not just a decision.
Yeah.
That's her, you know, because Holden is not going to just be like, okay, well, I've got a great relationship with Banky. Why don't the two of us just go and get fucking married? You know, like it's the whole, like, I don't know, not nature versus nurture, but it's like, are you born that way? You know, it's like, it wasn't a decision she made, but that's how she's articulating it.
Yeah.
To him.
Or at least that's how the character is introduced.
Yeah.
Too.
And I just feel like nobody had the language at the time to do it right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the scenes that would have to go through the most rewrites if we were going to bring it into 2019, is that scene on the swing set where they're discussing virginity and sex and relationships and how she defines herself. Like that scene right there is one of the most problematic.
Yeah.
Just because there wasn't a good way to say what needed to be said.
And the scene in when they're in the bed.
Yeah.
And it's like night. It's like dark. And that's when she's really just like, well, one day I just thought, like,
yeah,
why close myself off to this, you know? And at the time, I don't specifically remember feeling weird about it. But I do remember at the time in, 97 being like 19 watching this movie and going, well, I do have my fair share of lady friends who, if they were to have just been like, hey, I'm in love with you, I wouldn't have gotten out of the car and walked away.
Right.
But I also wouldn't have just fucking started making out with them either.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like there's been so many studies, and it's kind of understood that like female sexuality is a lot more fluid and all of that great stuff.
Yeah.
But even still, like, I mean, if one of my female friends hit on me, then it would be a conversation of, well, like, I tend to date men. This would be disappointing for you.
Let me take a night to think about it.
Right?
I'll get back to you.
Let me take 5 minutes to walk in the rain and try and hitchhike.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
with
then
no
I'm
cars
gonna
on the road.
come and give it a try.
Yeah. So I remember at the time feeling like, well, I don't know if this rings true to me, but is this pushing that like straight male agenda of, well, all women are kind of secretly bi anyway?
Well, I think what's problematic is, again, coming from a straight white male director writer, the fact that in this movie where she does make that decision, and then you have another character say that all any woman needs is a good deep dicking, like that's where the problems really come from, is like you're kind of reinforcing that idea by having her do that.
Yeah, that she just needs to find the right guy.
Right.
And the right guy is Holden. Like, I'm Ben Affleck's a great looking guy. I'm one of his last defenders, in 2019. I'm very much like, he's a fucking tall fucking drink of water.
You miss Bennifer.
I miss Bennifer. I miss
that music video where he kissed her ass on the yacht.
I every now and then I'll pop in Gone Girl just for that one scene in the shower.
Yep.
At the end, But in this movie, he's a little doughy. He's a little. He just kind of looks super average.
That and his just every time he's making a like sexy face or I love you face, made me real uncomfortable. Real uncomfortable.
And can we talk about after the scene in the ice rink when they do have like their major blow up, not the I love you, how dare you tell me that blow up, but the how many guys have you fucked scene, and she's like, oh, don't touch me, leave me alone. He grabs her arm, and he is a large gentleman.
Yeah.
He's like 6'3", 6'4", Ray. And Joey Lauren Adams is like,
That scene really hit me this
time.
Yeah.
In a way that it hadn't before.
Yes.
And again, I think it's just life experience.
Yeah.
And where we are at now.
Yeah.
But God, that accusation
yes,
and that
'cause that's
slut-shaming tone and that total overpowering, like, that scene made me so sad and so angry this time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's what he was, just slut-shaming her. That's all he was doing. And when she called him out on it, he was just like, well,
I was going to say,
well, fuck off. How many guys have you fucked? Like, he was not backing down. He was holding his ground on slut-shaming. And he's a big guy, and he's aggressive, and Ben Affleck has a temper.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, man, this is all kinds of weird.
Yeah.
What I was going to add to that scene, I do like that Alyssa does call him out, and she will not be slut-shamed as she's like screaming at him. But
and again, and I feel like that's a perfect example of a conversation that could be had in a movie in 2019, or a conversation I had a month ago with a guy. And it's just like, I shouldn't have to lie about my experiences or my number or whatever it is to make you feel more secure with what's happening in this relationship right now. Yeah,
for sure. That's interesting that we all kind of had that same reaction to that scene, because it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. When I know we're bouncing around, but there's the scene in the record store, the most 90s record store.
Oh my god. we were noting all of the albums on the back wall. I forgot that CD stores did that. They would have like displays of albums, right?
Yeah.
I used to have to set those up in Borders.
Oh, wow.
When I worked at the Borders in college, like we had that set up, and I had to like change out the CDs.
We were trying to count all of the albums that we recognized.
That was a greatest hits. It really was.
It was like looking into your CD collection.
Yeah.
I saw like Oasis, Alanis Morissette, Tracy Chapman,
Weezer,
Hole, Enya. One of my favorite Enya albums, actually.
Ooh, Yanni. I actually saw a Yanni album cover before he said it, and I was thinking, is that Yanni? And then he's all, ooh, Yanni.
That's one of those lines where, watching this too, I was like, oh, I quote this movie a lot. And that's one of the ones I say just apropos of nothing.
So we haven't really discussed Hopper X.
Yeah.
Hooper
X?
Yeah.
How do we feel about this character?
I love him.
I like him, but it does have that thing with movies and TV. This is a gay character written by a straight man.
Yeah.
Too.
It's very much the gay voice and the gay tones and you know, but
I mean,
the character is so lovable and so smart.
I like that he's African American. He's given some like visibility for
you gotta
for gay black men.
You got to give it up for 1997 to have a flamboyant gay black guy as the fifth lead,
and even like his whole character beat is like sticking it to like the white man. Too.
Yeah,
it's like it's built into his whole comic.
His whole thing is that he has to have a very butch, Black Power persona for his fans because he writes a very like Afrocentric comic, but in his real personal life, he's a more flamboyant like gay guy. But he talks about being a minority within a minority.
Yeah,
which is a thing, but also, and I don't know if they really mention it, but he is more flamboyant, and I guess that's not something that really at the time they would have even mentioned because gay characters are just flamboyant gay characters,
right? Like that was the only gay character you could have. It would have been more transgressive to have a gay character where it would have been like it was a subtler switch between the two personas.
Yes, because either it's a straight actor playing gay, and then they're just playing boring and not doing any sort of flamboyant gay voice, or just like an actual like super flamboyant character. But yeah, for him to be like and they talk about that in Paris is Burning, he's just like being like a gay black guy, but also being a flamboyant gay person is like also another minority within, because that's the whole like no femmes, no fats, no femmes, no Asians.
Well, and the fact that that's still a discussion too, like that's still a major discussion.
It's a huge thing.
And like there was a documentary a couple of years ago about like the gay voice and how true to life it is and how much Hollywood using it as a stereotype.
Do I sound gay?
Do I sound gay? Yeah,
it was great. I loved it.
I thought it was kind of interesting that his character sort of mentions people coming out as gay because they think it's trendy, too. Yeah, he mentioned that to him.
Yeah.
See, maybe it's my I never had that experience, and I went to the gayest college in gay town, and like if anybody was coming out, they were not doing it for the fans.
Sure.
They were,
Yeah, it was real.
I witnessed a lot of coming out.
Yeah, I would imagine. He mentions too lesbianism being more widely accepted, right?
Straight men find it hot.
Yes. I mean it's true though,
Well, and that's the other double standard too of like it's really hot and it's really attractive when like she's the idea of her being with another woman, but all of a sudden with her being with another man in a similar position, then he freaks out because it's like my junk is the most powerful junk and I need her to love it above all other junk.
I mean, I feel like that's really a big
it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a huge thing, and it's a big thing in this movie in particular, He does want to think that. He is just like that's one of her main points is just that like when you thought that I hadn't been with any other men, you were fine.
Yeah.
But now it's like now you're not into it.
Yeah, because it's such a hard fantasy to sell to most men that like the idea of two dudes, but like, oh man, if she had mentioned like I would like to bring another woman into this bed, he would have been all over.
And she had a lot of sex stories. That was how we were introduced to her. Was with like sex stories of like multiple partners. So he's not turned off by the fact that she's experienced.
Promiscuous.
Yeah.
Or whatever word he wants to use for it in his head.
Yeah. It's crazy. I will say though, if this entire movie was gender flipped, I don't even think you'd get that now. Like this, I don't even think this movie would fly now if it was all gender flipped.
No,
like a gay or bisexual guy ending up with a woman.
Huh?
Do we need that movie?
Maybe we do.
Right?
Again, and I don't know if it needs to be specifically gender flipped or if we can have anything, but like I feel like this idea of moving into like the non-binary and like
didn't we just watch that
visibility,
that teen movie
Sure.
that was sort of like that this summer or this past spring?
Which one?
Giant Little Ones.
Well, there were two,
but then there was a girlfriend thrown in there though.
Yeah, but I think that was just like Best Judy's.
We're talking about a movie called
Giant Little Ones.
Giant Little Ones.
I did not see that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like the conversation is so much broader now, but it still needs to happen.
Yeah.
And if there was a way to frame it and make it palatable for the mainstream, which I don't think this movie ever was.
Right.
Like, I don't think this was a record-breaking, everybody went to see it.
Right.
This was a very
I think it was a
niche
sleeper.
movie.
It made back its small budget.
Yeah.
It probably was a quick turnaround for Miramax.
I remember it was cool.
Yeah.
Like it was cool.
It
like,
got Joey a Golden Globe nomination.
Well, and
Wow.
they swept the Spirits that year, too.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I remember like cool like hipster people
Yeah.
liked it, and it was like it had a lot of credibility.
And that, I mean, that's still the audience that would go see it
Yes,
today.
yeah.
If you were making a movie kind of talking about these themes,
Yeah.
it's still going to be the kind of younger, hipster,
Mm-hmm.
woke
Yeah,
audience.
yeah, for sure.
Do you know what episode of Sex and the City this reminds me of that I just recently went back and revisited? Is the boy, girl, boy episode where Carrie dates a bisexual, and it's a guy.
Scott is looking at me as if I'm going to back his play on this, and I have seen 2 episodes of Sex and the City in my entire life.
Yeah.
I am a defective woman.
Oh
I'm
my
so
God.
Carrie
sorry.
Bradshaw is a sex columnist that doesn't
we know that
believe in
Oh, she doesn't be-
bisexuality. And she dates a bisexual guy, and she just can't handle it.
Yeah, and again, like that's why
so
I feel like
whack.
Alyssa's character could
Yeah.
still be relevant and
Yeah.
could still be having these conversations today. And it could be interesting. It's just everyone that's surrounding her is a garbage person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you know what? We also have just forgotten about, because we are kind of jumping around, which is fine. But this movie also opens with a prank public shooting.
Oh, yeah. Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part I was like, oh, a gun just showed up.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah, in a public space, like a theater-type space, shooting
And it's
into
done
the
as
crowd
like, it's done
as
as
a
like
prank.
performance art
Oh,
almost.
man. Yeah.
But, oh, Hooper would have been shot today.
Yes.
Oh, he would have been tackled to the ground and like
Yeah.
shot. Yeah.
Oh my god. And it's funny. It's played off as a joke, but it's just like, whoa, those were the days, man, when you could just
Make a funny gun joke.
and they're like, oh, Holden's like, how do you get away with that? And he's like, oh, these are blanks, not
Right?
fake gun.
No.
Not, oh, I'm going to shoot you with the water gun that this actually... No. They're blanks, which means this is a real-ass gun.
And it looks real. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, anybody walking, the good guy with the gun that
Yeah.
we're supposed to rely on in these situations
Yeah.
would have taken
Yeah,
Hooper
exactly.
out.
The open carry person.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
I mean, I guess also is the joke that it's done at a graphic novel convention, and it's like,
Who's going to take him down?
who's going to take him down at this
guess,
convention
yeah.
or call the cops? I don't know. It's a weird scene.
See, I feel like that's almost even more dangerous because you have a bunch of people growing up on like vigilante
Yeah,
superhero stories.
yeah. one
of them would try and take him out.
I mean,
somebody
nowadays-
dressed like Batman,
Yeah, exactly.
would go for him.
Exactly. Or all the incel Joker types are going to be in there with their actual weapons.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
I have in my notes Ben Affleck smoking.
Everybody's
smoke
smoking.
non-stop
Yes.
in this movie.
Alyssa is smoking
Alyssa's-
in the panel at the con.
Yeah.
Like when Hooper's talking,
Yeah,
she's
she's
smoking.
Smoking in bed.
Smoking in bed with ashtray on his belly,
Yep.
laying in bed.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, they're laying in bed presumably after they have just done it, had sex, and she's like, I don't remember what she's wearing because I wasn't focused on her. I think she's wearing like a tank top or something, but he's wearing like boxer briefs, white boxer briefs, and a white T-shirt.
Yeah.
Why is he wearing a T-shirt?
I feel like Ben Affleck was having some body issues.
That was a
Yeah.
choice.
Because in the first sex scene, too, she's naked from the waist
Yeah,
up.
just in
and
boxers.
he's wearing, like,
You
a
don't
full
see him
T-shirt
really with his
and
shirt off in this movie.
Long
Yeah.
ass boxers. Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I get that we always want the chick to be naked.
Yeah.
'cause
He
that's
didn't
more
have the money
fun,
for the
but-
personal trainer yet.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah.
But honestly, I feel like I would like fluffy Ben Affleck much better than
Do you know?
jacked Ben
agree.
Affleck.
Do you know
Yeah.
why? What I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like Leo's body, just has this like guy body.
Leo's never had a good body.
He's never like he just
He's
has
always been either skinny as a rail or
he
just
has
like
a dude body
all right,
in
lay
that
off the
movie.
party.
That
Yeah.
like I'm a millionaire. I fuck supermodels. I don't need to be super jacked.
That and he
Deal with it.
I'm very talented.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
do I need abs?
Yeah.
I can actually
But yeah,
act.
he just has a
But even in
average
Romeo and
Joe
Juliet,
body.
Oh yeah.
even in Romeo and Juliet, just skinny dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, going back to my whole like defective womanness, like the jacked abs have never
Sure.
won me over. I'm
Yeah.
just like, well, he has abs. Whew.
You're not the Brad Pitt in Fight Club like.
I mean, like to give you some perspective, my wall when I was in high school had pictures of like Liam Neeson on it. So
You're like a guy with a good, strong, broken nose.
I, love it.
Liam Neeson is very strikingly handsome.
Yeah.
I love Liam Neeson. Oh my goodness.
But as a 15-year-old, it was maybe a little weird.
Sure. Yeah.
But
I can see
that's
that.
that's my older British dudes. Like that's where I'm at.
Yeah, you didn't even go Colin Firth, like the more like what you would. That's the one. That's
kind of
that's
kind
the
of
weird old
That's
English
like
guy.
the
that-
basic bitch
Yeah.
choice.
No, I was
True. Also true.
I was going deep cuts.
I like it. I like it.
You're like, what? I was just a big Schindler's List fan.
Yeah, that gave me some conflicted feelings about Ray Fiennes, but
Oh my
that's
God,
another
right.
show.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, all this the nonstop smoking in this movie. There was a smoking machine. There was a cigarette machine
In their office.
/apartment.
Yeah.
Do they live there?
I mean, how successful is this comic
This
book?
is a very
Yeah.
clean bachelor pad too.
I mean, except for the fact that one of their doors has sex room spray painted
Yeah.
on
I
it.
feel like it was Jason Lee's door that said sex room, and then Holden's door said like
Don't be a dick.
Dick
or...
Boy or something.
Yeah.
It was Dick something was written on
Yeah.
there.
That's such a man-child job to have your protagonist be. Is comic book artists.
I mean, it fits because they are both
Yeah.
such whiny baby. One of my first notes is, listen to all the petulant white men.
Yeah. Oh, so many. I had some questions about their workspace. Is it a live workspace? Do they in fact live there? The couch. I feel like they live there. I feel like those were their bedrooms.
And they can sort of flip it to be an office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They work out of it as well. But there's a cigarette machine in there, and I thought maybe it was just for show. Like, they just have this retro cigarette machine in their office. But he's trying to get cigarettes out of it at one point.
Right?
And I was like, oh man, this movie makes me miss my smoking days.
I kept thinking about that too because that was right around when I was a smoker. And I was thinking about, too, like, the scene where he's lighting her cigarette and does the thing with the lighter.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I once impressed a guy right around that time by my ability to, like, walk briskly down a New York street and light my cigarette at the same time. Like, he crossed the street to, like, tell me how impressed he was. I was like,
Nice.
damn, Skippy, I'm good at this.
I would never break that piece off of a lighter with my
No,
teeth.
absolutely not.
Not
That's-
with my teeth.
You're drinking lighter fluid at that point.
Yeah. I mean, you could do... That's a thing. That's a trick. You can break that thing off to make the flame go like crazy high. But, yeah, I that was one thing that I always associate these Kevin Smith View Askew movies with is the incessant chain smoking.
Yeah.
You can hear in the Mallrats soundtrack the nonstop flicking open and closed of Zippo lighters as they chain smoke through the entire commentary of Mallrats.
Oh, yeah.
That Mallrats commentary is a gem. If you've never listened to it, it's
I need
good.
to go back
and
and
they
listen to
they
that
kind of
one.
they call out Shannon Doherty for being awful.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then Ben Affleck tries to play the whole card. Oh, she's not that bad, and then Kevin's like, no, she was pretty awful.
And yet she, like, signed on to do Clerks 3.
Oh, is that recent?
Uh-huh. Like,
Wow.
before they did the newest Jay and Silent Bob reboot, it was going to be Clerks 3, and like if you go back a little bit through Kevin Smith's Instagram, you can see him with all of these like View Askew actors that he's getting back for like this project.
Man, remember Clerks 2 was a thing?
Yeah.
I saw that in the theater on
So
opening day.
Oh, I didn't see it opening day, but I saw it in the theater.
Oh, my nerd Kevin Smith cred runs real deep.
Rosario Dawson, what a choice. Yeah. That was a choice.
Yeah.
What's going on with that one these days? Are you guys reading about this thing?
I am. That's crazy.
So crazy.
What's this whole thing with Rosario Dawson?
Oh, she's getting sued.
She's getting sued.
Why?
By a former assistant that's like saying that they like beat him up, like all this stuff.
She
it's
like
crazy.
Well, I mean, she's from the
Bronx.
She's from
girl.
the Bronx.
Yeah. Harmony Korine found her on that stoop. Said, "You look like a girl on a stoop. I need that for this movie."
It was for kids, right?
For kids, yeah. Yep. I always like Rosario Dawson too, but now I don't know what to believe.
I know, right? So into her, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah. Oh, well,
I'll have to read up on it.
Yeah, read about it. Maybe we'll post some links on the Instagram to that too.
But yeah, it was such a weird, like, just thinking about like kids and slackers and singles and like all of these movies coming out in that time.
I got a lot of Singles vibe from this movie.
Me too, especially like the endlessly long singing portion.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, what are we trying to be here?
Yeah.
But it's that very, very much that vibe. Like this fits perfectly in that canon, in that time, and like it worked really. I feel like it worked really well for 1997.
Yeah. No, sure, it did. I agree with that. I wonder why Kevin Smith movies didn't rely a lot on popular music, and maybe that's just maybe it was a licensing thing. Maybe
they just couldn't afford it.
I'm sure for this one they couldn't, because I feel
it.
like there is no way. I cannot believe that
Meredith Brooks's bitch wasn't in this
right.
movie somewhere.
Like that wasn't in there, and like the scene where they're getting out of the car and like professing their love and talking about how difficult the relationship is. Just watch that scene and just listen to the weird instrumental, choiry, circusy music. Yeah. There's no way that was their first choice.
Yeah. There's another scene where it's just like this weird, like lingering trumpet, like kind of jazzy. You're like, what is this, like film noir music that's going on? A lot of weird, like incongruous music choices that they were probably just catalog stuff that they had, or they're just like, here, just throw this in.
Well, I feel like especially since if you watch his other movies that have a bigger budget, like the music is very specific and very referential, because I feel like that's his whole shtick is being referential and really embracing the things that he grew up on. And, you know, there's kind of none of that in this.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's too bad. It probably would have made it
like it should sound like Reality Bites.
Yes.
Yeah.
That it should be similar to
God,
that soundtrack.
even So I Married an Axe Murderer, like that. You know what I mean? Like movies at the time, is like that movie was jam packed with bangers.
Yeah. How was Two Princes not in this movie?
There she goes. Come on.
What was the one recognizable pop song that they got? Oh, was it Mighty Mighty Bosstones?
Oh yeah, that's right. They did get Mighty Mighty Bosstones from.
They blew the sound library budget on that,
and it was in Clueless already.
Yep.
Come on. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh well. I never really associate Kevin Smith movies with soundtrack though.
No, and I mean, it's never revolutionary, but this time it stood out to me a lot more.
Yeah.
Because even in Clerks, where they were just using catalog, like music from the like dark days of cinema, it still sounded more purposeful,
right,
than these ones.
Yeah. I mean, I do have to say, for having such a small budget, aside from some questionable lighting issues in the club scenes, it looked really good.
I didn't really care for the scene when they're in the car.
And
how
they're
that
being
shot,
lit by the
that's a super clunky scene.
Overhead car light.
And it's probably one of those things, too, that they just didn't have the budget for any other set, so they just had to shoot in the car.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a go-to when you're trying to save money in movies.
Yeah.
Just to put the scene in the car.
But I feel like if that was the case, we could there had to have been another location that we could have cut.
Well, when they get out of the car, and they walk up and down the street. Is that scene when it's raining?
Yeah.
The street is completely empty, so they had to have blocked off that street.
It's a lot easier to do in New York than it is in LA, because if you've ever shot it in LA, it is a huge hassle, and you have to pay so much money to get the cops to come out and block the street, to get everything cordoned off, to get the releases, to get the rights to shoot that building.
Yeah.
In New York, it's a lot easier.
Okay.
Essentially, you can just show up with a camera and be like, hello, policemen,
Sure.
please stop people from walking by. Or if you need people, like, everybody gets to walk. I have walked through more movies in college.
Right? Yeah.
Like, somewhere in the back of, like, Little Nicky, you can probably see me, like, blearily going to class.
That's amazing. I love that.
But it's so much, and you don't have to get as many permits.
Sure.
You don't. So it's a lot easier to do there.
And that scene also could have been in New Jersey, because half the movie takes place in New Jersey, because that's where Holden and Banky live. Which I kind of appreciate the fact that Kevin Smith, part of his backstory is that he's from New Jersey. Is he from Cherry Hill or something like that?
He is from Red Bank.
Red Bank. And a lot of his characters reside in New Jersey. They don't like the city. They don't like going into the city. And me and my friend Matt, around this time frame, and when we used to love these Kevin Smith movies, we just always loved that, because, you know, being in Pasadena and being from the suburbs and stuff, it's a hassle to go into town, you know? We're just like, oh, we gotta go to LA, fuck.
Yeah. Well, here
You know?
it's a nightmare. Like,
Yeah.
I will say, like, I had a friend in college, and we were in Manhattan, and she lived in New Jersey, and it was a bus.
Yeah.
Like, you got on Grand Central, you took the bus,
Yeah.
and let you out, like, pretty near her house.
Yeah.
It was not a huge hassle.
It would take hours to commute from, like, Whittier to...
On public transportation
to, like,
in LA to get to the suburbs?
Sunset Boulevard.
Fuck that. Yeah.
I mean,
take
it took
hours.
me 35 minutes to get from Burbank to, like, Van Nuys the other night, so...
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I just always thought that was kind of charming, that he just was like, no, these are suburban guys.
Yeah.
They are going to live in Jersey, and she's in New York, and that was part of Banky's big thing, was just like, fuck it, like like, how long is it going to take us to get into town? I don't want to go into the city tonight, you know?
I mean, to be fair, they were driving, so that's
Yeah.
the whole hassle of, like, parking in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like, just take the bus or the train,
Yeah,
guys.
exactly.
Come on.
It's one of those things, too, if the Weinsteins would have got their way, would they be living in a giant loft
Yeah.
in Manhattan?
Right.
That's
Oh, yeah.
just...
They're just like, how
They
do
never
afford
talk
this?
about how they afford this giant
Yeah.
apartment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, none of it would have been set in Jersey.
just like
it would have,
Manhattan
yeah.
is their oyster, and it's just essentially just set in a romantic comedy that's in New York City.
Yeah.
And that's a very specific choice from Kevin Smith and somebody like that, who's just like, no, I'm going to set it, you know, in my hometown, and that's going to be the thing. And you make those specific choices based on your experience and all that. So, yeah, I always thought that was...
Well, and that's what is so jarring about that trailer, again, is like,
Yeah.
it sounds like a generic Jennifer
Yeah.
Aniston rom-com.
And that's
Yeah.
what I found bizarre about it when I was 17 watching it.
Oh, I'm sure.
You're just like, what is this?
And also, going back to the movie that we just did, Object of My Affection, that's another movie that was sold very, very differently
Oh, yeah.
to how it actually goes down when you watch it.
I can remember watching that one and being
Mhm.
like, what? we went off the rails at some point. Did we? Is this a reel from another movie? What's happening?
Seriously. But did you think did you like what you were seeing? Did you feel duped? Did you feel like it was too weird? Not weird enough?
I definitely felt like it was too weird, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, being like a closeted, like, 17-year-old, too, that you're just, like, grasping your pearls when they're talking about, like, fisting and, like, lesbian sex. You're just like, oh, my God.
And Hooper, like, when they're in the record store, and Hooper's like, you need to get over it, and they're having their little conversation, and Hooper's like, ooh, wow, big whoop, multiple sex partners.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like, get into it, honey. Like,
right?
Well, and again, like, I feel like that's why this movie, like, had such a place in my, like, spirit, is because I had just moved to New York. I had just discovered, like, everything.
Yeah.
And, like, I was reading Dan Savage's column for the first time. I was watching this movie. Like, worlds were being opened to me.
I don't know if I would have survived if I would have been, like, 19 years old, moving to Manhattan,
Yeah.
being like a
Swallowed you
young
up.
gay kid. I
Spit
just
you
would
out.
have.
I mean,
up,
boutique
like,
sex shops,
being
really
I
weird
just would have
bars.
ended
like-
up being like a rent boy or something. I don't know. Who knows? Just like ODing at the tunnel or something. If it was still open in
Tunnel
like,
would not have been open anymore.
in like 2004.
But yeah, I think this movie was a large part of that, just overall self-transformation moment for me, which
for sure.
I can watch it now and be like,
yeah,
there are problems,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
can also watch it and be like, okay, that's a valid point.
Yeah, the movie is definitely on to something.
Yeah.
Even like we discussed before, that there just wasn't the cultural dialogue to give it words.
Yeah.
You can tell that something was there.
Oh, totally.
In Kevin Smith's script. And I'd be curious to see if the script changed at all from when he first wrote it. Maybe it was there originally and they just felt like they had to take it all out.
Yeah,
as
I don't
they were
know.
making it and just water it down. Because that sometimes happens with movies with characters like this.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd be interested to hear what he would have to say about it now as well. Because, like, he talked about it in Evening With, but that was 2002.
Right.
And, again, we've just moved forward so much culturally that I feel like he would have some of these same thoughts.
Yeah, for sure.
At this point.
Yeah.
I would like to think he would be a little uncomfortable with how casually he drops fag.
Yeah.
Too.
That would.
I'm sure he would call that out.
In the 2019 rewrite, that's the first thing to
Yes.
go, is
Yeah,
just
for sure.
all of those.
Yeah. And Banky defending saying it too,
Yeah.
saying like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I can say it in my own home."
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
no, you can't, buddy.
Yeah. Really?
That's like your racist uncle's
Yeah.
Yeah.
defense right there.
Yeah.
Or it's, that I've been saying it my whole life. Doesn't
Yeah.
make it
Right?
okay.
Yeah.
we all got together.
That's
we all
just what we
decided.
said. Yeah. No.
It's not cool anymore, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think overall, I still like this movie.
I do too.
Yeah.
I feel
I do
like there's
too.
some pacing issues, and I
Yeah.
feel like there's, again,
It's
just
long.
some... It is
Yeah,
long,
It's
you
long.
could easily cut 10 minutes from this movie.
at least.
I'm surprised. A Miramax independent comedy.
They weren't like, you have to hit an hour and 40
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
It's
And you can't go over.
Comedies of this sort are not. Would not be this long today.
This isn't like
By any means.
This isn't like a Judd Apatow movie.
Yeah, I thought
That's
it was.
Like,
I thought it was going to be like
that's like 2
80
hours and
minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be 80 minutes, and I hit play, and I was like, "Oh, it is not. It is 2 hours."
We're here for a full 2 hours.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Pacing things, but the jokes, those quotable lines
Yeah.
are there, and I was sitting there watching it, just like you, going to tell myself, "I know all these lines."
Yeah. Oh,
I was
totally.
just saying to myself, I was like, "Yeah."
Oh, I always notice the bored look in their eyes.
Yeah. Oh,
Genius.
God, yeah.
Still holds. Love it. Still
Chef
giggled.
kiss. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that I always. His delivery was really great at that. I always noticed the bored look in their eyes.
Yeah.
That is so smart.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, what's a Nubian? Isn't that true? All that stuff in that scene. The Binky lines are great, and it's like
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like, is he an asshole?
Again, I feel like if you just Holden has to be a complete teardown
Yes.
as a character.
Yeah.
At dialogue, everything.
Yeah.
You have to tear him all the way down
Yeah,
and rebuild him.
That job, yeah.
Banky, I feel like if you just cut out all of the homophobic
Yeah,
slurs,
yeah.
he's probably a manageable character.
Yeah, for sure.
I would have liked to have seen more of an arc from him too towards the end.
Yeah.
Would like
He
to
agrees
see
to the threesome.
This is true.
He says, "Okay, I think we should all have sex." All right.
Who do you think is going to be the top and the bottom?
I
in
don't
that
think
whole
they would have
relationship?
touched each other at all.
No?
If they did have sex, they would not have touched each other at all.
That would have been one of those. The second one of them did touch the other one, it's all
It's
done.
over. Yeah.
That's why they call it the Devil's Threesome.
It's Devil's Threesome right there, or the Devil's Triangle.
The Devil's Triangle.
Yeah, but then that sucks because that just means it's all on her, and what's she getting out of it?
Well, that's
I
why
don't
she
think
didn't.
likes Banky.
That's why
Yeah,
she didn't agree
that
with
whole
it.
ultimatum. Oh my god.
And again, like that's probably that moment for her is one that I like connected with in a big bad way this time, where I'm like,
Yeah.
everything she's saying, I can totally relate to in this moment.
Yeah.
And, like, I understand her pain, I understand her frustration, and I understand why she had to leave.
Yeah.
Like, that is a pivotal moment for her,
Yeah.
and it still rings true.
I don't like the ending of this movie. I get what they're doing, but I just don't really think it lands.
The last scene, the
where they
denouement.
just like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
I
Funny
mean,
seeing you here.
I feel like
Just
the
someone that I
scene
knew.
between Holden and
Yeah.
Banky is probably the most real they ever got with each other,
Yeah.
and they don't speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
that part I liked. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Alyssa Holden stuff is just, okay.
Just
so
some-
you turned it into a comic book.
Just some
Yeah,
guy that I
yeah,
knew.
Thanks.
Ew.
Yeah.
This woman that Alyssa's with. I love that this woman is just like, I don't like comic books, and these people are weird. That guy's got pointy ears.
What's she
It's like,
doing there?
Like, why are you dating a comic book artist?
And then when she comes back with her water, she's all like, "Who was that?" She's at a signing,
Right?
She's got
Another
a line,
artist. I don't
A
know.
line of people waiting to talk to her. Who was that? A fan? Somebody wanting to sign my book?
And also, that was Chasing Amy issue number 1 when he throws it down there.
Ah.
Yet it gets all the way to the end of their relationship. How the hell
Oh,
did
yeah,
all of that
what's
fit
up?
into a single issue? That is a graphic novel,
Yeah.
if not a multi-novel arc.
Yeah, it's an omnibus.
Come on, guys.
Self-published, only 500, only 500 copies. Oh goodness. So him and Banky just broke up then?
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing is, like, it also made their relationship unsalvageable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
At least in E2 Mama Tambien, we got to see him make out.
That was
That's
hot.
true.
And,
And
then
then they broke up.
And then they broke up.
Yeah. But at least they went through with it. Come on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
seriously. I guess these straight guys, man, they can't just, like, get their shit together and move on.
It's real hard.
Move on. It happened.
It's not going to be like, yeah. It's like, hey, remember that girl that you used to date? That whole thing?
I hated her.
That was weird. Did you think that was weird? I thought it was weird.
Yeah.
I'm glad we didn't end up having sex.
Yeah, right.
Neither one of us would have been very good at it.
Yeah. So I forgot that Banky and Hooper are said to have gotten together in
Yeah.
Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, right?
Yes.
Okay. I have to revisit that. Should I revisit that?
If you just want to revisit that scene, it's at the very end of the movie.
Isn't it just
it's
packed full of cameos, the entire
yeah.
thing?
And the scene where you learn that they're together is everybody coming out of the screening of Blunt Man and
Oh,
Chronic.
sure.
And so they're talking about the movie,
Yeah.
and you see them as a couple.
Okay.
What's our next Kevin Smith movie we're going to revisit then? Is it going to be Jay and Silent Bob Straight Back?
I don't know. That's
Do I finally need to watch Clerks?
I mean, I would say definitely watch Clerks before you watch Jay and Silent
yeah.
Bob
Oh, yeah.
Strike
You
Back.
have to. Yeah.
Yeah. I
See-
mean, I feel like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is much more a straight man fantasy.
Yeah. For
Do you
sure.
know what's interesting? I hate to sound like a broken record with everyone when I'm talking about this book, but I listened to it on Audible recently.
The 1999.
The 1999 book called the best movie year ever, how 1999 blew up the big screen. And the beginning of that book looks at the state of independent film and how it just sort of flatlined. Like, they stopped making
Indies?
money.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, studios would buy these big movies out of Sundance, and they just really wouldn't be successful.
Well,
And
I
they would
mean,
pay like millions of dollars to release these movies.
I feel like once the festivals started getting this traction and getting this reputation of this is where you go to buy your next independent
Yeah.
film, they started taking anybody.
Yeah.
Oh,
like-
yeah.
And I feel like it probably started to happen when Chasing Amy came out.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at the Independent Spirit Awards in the last few years, like, how are any of these considered independent
Right.
movies? Like
A budget of like $10 million is
the
considered
word
an
has
independent
changed.
movie.
Independent cinema is a completely different landscape
Yeah,
at this
in the
point.
book, kind of, it all was revitalized by the Blair Witch Project.
There's an interesting. There's another film podcast that I listen to called Film Spotting, and
Yes.
they're doing their 9 from '99 this year and revisiting 9 movies from
I've been
1999.
revisiting a good handful of them.
And they
We've
talk
done a
about
lot
that.
of movies on this podcast from 1999.
Yeah, and it was a stellar. Like, every time they
Yeah.
bring up a movie that they're going to review, I'm like, oh yeah, I fucking love that movie.
It was a movie year for everyone. There was something for guys, girls, your grandma,
Oh yeah.
teens, everything.
But yeah, it is really interesting, and that book does look really good.
Yeah, you should read it. It's good. I liked it a lot.
I found my post, my original post from 2013 on our Empire Records sitcom episodes. I'll be posting some of these on our story.
I look forward to it.
We'll talk about it after we finish wrapping this up. But okay, I think we should.
Yeah,
we should get to the bottom of this. Yeah.
Any final thoughts on Chasing
thoughts.
Amy?
I mean, I still love parts of it. There are still
Yeah.
parts of it that I really, really respond to. And again, like I feel like just exploring my own life in the past few years,
Yeah.
there are parts that resonate even more than they did with dumb 19-year-old Amber who didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
I feel like for me at the time, how old I was, just coming out to my friends, having that kind of representation sitting in a movie theater.
It was something that you could enjoy with your friends.
I knew that I was lucky. I knew that
Yeah.
I was in LA and Hollywood seeing this movie, and not a lot of people were going to be able to see it. We knew we had to go all the way to Hollywood to see it. We couldn't see it just in Alhambra, like at the Atlantic Square. We had to like go and seek it out. But it was like important, and I liked that it was cool and funny and edgy, and that it was something that I could like. That it was just something to hold on to and just be like, look, there's like people on screen, like living their life, and so that was important for me at the time at that age. But yeah, seeing it again, it's quaint.
Yeah,
it's quaint. It's aged, but I'm glad it's there.
I'm glad that I got to revisit this as an adult.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, definitely.
I could sort of make sense of this movie that I just didn't even know what to think about when I was 17 years old watching it. Just because I hadn't quite lived all that much.
Sure.
That I feel like with my experience now, I can definitely appreciate a lot of aspects of this movie. And it invites a good conversation.
Oh,
too.
totally. Yeah, so if you ever are having a lull in a dinner party, throw this one on, pick a scene, it'll get conversation flowing.
Agreed.
I mean,
at Thanksgiving this year.
All
there you
the
go.
disposable 90s romantic comedies, at least this one, still kind of some hot button issues with it that are still very valid today.
Yeah. Totally.
Thank you for coming on our show.
So much for coming on.
I enjoyed it so
We were
much.
debating between Chasing Amy and Hedwig, but I kind of thought Chasing Amy might have a insightful conversation.
Yeah.
We definitely had that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll definitely come back for Hedwig.
Of course.
I wrote papers on it in college.
I just bought the new
Awesome.
Criterion.
Me too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'd love for you to rate and review our podcast. Go over to iTunes.
Give us 5 stars.
Yes, all 5 of
Do
them. And write us a review, also, if you haven't already. And also head over to Instagram and Facebook. We are at Movies That Made Us Gay. We're also on Twitter at MTMUG That's Movies That Made Us Gay Pod. On Twitter, drop us a line. Give us any suggestions for movies that you'd like to see us review, listen to us review. And, we're very, very active on the Instagram.
Yes,
Follow
we're
us.
coming up on December soon, too.
Yes, we
We'll
are.
be doing some fun Christmas movies coming up.
Ooh, like those gay Christmas movies.
I might force Pete to watch The Family Stone. We'll see. It might not happen, though.
We'll see about that. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.